wasn't really sure if I was going to make this video. I've actually already tried to make it a couple of times. Not sure if I'm going to post it, but I want to try and say this because I think it's important, and I also think that it might help someone. So many of you that have followed me closely for a while and followed my vlogs and all of that will know about Kai, my boyfriend of 4 years. Now, some of you noticed that he had sort of stopped appearing in things and I had stopped talking about him. And that was because we broke up. It was my decision to end things, and out of full, complete and total respect to Kai and his privacy, I'm not going to go into any details except to say that I still love and respect Kai dearly. He is still a friend to me. We ended on good terms, and I only have good things to say about him. The reason that I ended things with Kai was because I started to realize, I began a journey of realizing that I am gay. And I know this is going to be really, really hard for a lot of you to understand. Like, I have spent so much of my career writing about having sex with men and talking about it here on YouTube. I had a series where I talked about like going and sleeping with all these guys and trying to be like an F girl. You know how there's F boys, and I tried to be an F girl. And I made videos about like giving head and things like that. The thing is, I grew up in a very Catholic home. I was raised fairly religiously. I'm not religious anymore, but I was raised that way. And I was raised on a pretty steady diet of Disney movies that showed me that the goal in life was to find a man who would love me and marry me and ride off into the sunset with me. And that was all I ever saw around me. I don't want to kind of show my age here and make myself sound really old, but when I was growing up, there wasn't really representation around me of gay people. All the people I knew, all my friends, everyone I associated with was straight. And I didn't really see anything but other straight people in the media. And so when I started having romantic and sexual feelings for other women as a teenager, I thought that there was something wrong with me. I thought that I was maybe a pervert or something, which it sounds wild to say that in 2021, and we're not going back that far ago, but that was how I felt. And I did, you know, as I got older, I kissed women. I went on the odd date with women. I had sex with women. But what was really, I guess, showing my shame around it was that I would never tell anyone about these encounters that I was having with women. And it was extra weird because I tell everyone everything. You know, it's a running joke that my entire sex life is on the internet because I have no concept of TMI, which is too much information. And I would tell graphic, detailed stories to all my friends about the boys I'd been with, but I would not even acknowledge the fact that I'd been with women. And it wasn't until just under a year ago that I finally felt like I could actually publicly articulate it, that I could say to my friends and also in my writing, because I've always prided myself in writing about like things that were actually happening to me, that I liked women. And so I came out as bisexual. I wrote a column about it and I made a video about it here on YouTube as well. And it was sort of like, since I did that, it had started to very slowly just slowly nudge on this little switch that was inside me deep down, that I always knew was in there, but had just sort of been laying dormant in me. And it just started to flicker on. And it was maybe about 6 or so months ago now that I approached Kai to have an open relationship. And I said, I want to meet and sleep with, have interactions, physical interactions with other women. And he was actually very relieved to find out that it was only women. Like, we talked a little bit about the idea of me being with other men, but it wasn't really something that interested me. I just really wanted to be with other women. And so I think because we do get that sort of real heteronormative programming, he, I think, in part saw it. And obviously I don't want to speak for him, but I think part of it was that he saw it this way. And I know I even saw it this way because of the way I've been conditioned, that it wasn't going to be a threat to our relationship, because two women, in what we get taught in our culture for so much of the conditioning that I've had, two women can't ever be as legitimate as a man and woman. It's just women being sexy and playing around, and it's kind of hot. And so I started exploring that, and it was something I did privately. It had nothing to do with Kai. It wasn't for his sexual gratification at all. It was just for me. And it was more and more through that process. Even though I had already been with women before this, it had always been like a dirty secret for me. And to actually be just so open, to have told people I'm bisexual, to have my boyfriend's actual like full, like, yes, if you want to explore this, I want you to explore it, to have his full support, it just felt like this huge weight had lifted. And when I was going on dates with women in that time, I found myself, although I had told myself, oh, it's just because I'm like sexually attracted to women and I just want to hook up, I found myself feeling more. I found myself imagining what a future could be like with a woman. I never let myself I knew I was gonna cry. I never let myself imagine. I never let myself imagine that before. I spent my whole life trying so hard to push myself, to jam myself into the hole, to be the peg, to make my square peg fit in the round hole, so to speak, of wanting a future with a man. And it just always felt like something was missing. You know, those of you that have been following me for a while and followed my work will know, I was married for nearly 7 years to a man, a beautiful man who loved me deeply and treated me with nothing but love and respect, and who was an amazing friend to me as well. And I could not make that marriage work. In fact, I was absolutely miserable for a lot of that marriage. And it was really unfair to my husband because he did nothing but love and adore me. And it was very tumultuous, and it was exactly how all my relationships have been. They all followed this pattern where there was these extreme emotions, these extreme, in me, by the way, not in the guys I was with, these extreme ups and downs, these highs and lows, this obsession around thinking that this man was going to leave me and that I had to do anything I could to hold on to him, even though none of these men ever gave me any indication that they were trying to leave me. It just triggered something in my brain always. And I thought that was love. I was like, this is what love is. Love is agony. Love is all consuming. Love is when you're overtaken and overcome with these extreme intense emotions. Love is when you would hurt yourself to make someone stay with you, because that was something that I spent a lot of time doing. I spent a lot of time in private hurting myself. And I never understood why I was doing it. I just knew I felt so compelled to keep hurting myself and going in and out of hospital all the time, being in psychiatric units, being given various diagnoses of different things. All I knew is I couldn't seem to feel fully just happy and at peace in any of my relationships. And like I say, Kai only ever treated me beautifully, with so much love and respect. Same with my husband, same with the boyfriends I had before him. It didn't make sense to me how I could have all these things that I was told were the things that I needed, and then be so miserable and going in and out of hospitals and harming myself and having these frantic episodes where I would break things. I would go like I was like losing my mind every time I felt the slightest sense that a partner was pulling away from me. I realized that all of the relationships that I had, my relationships with men, were really actually about kind of trying to replace the father, I guess, that I never really fully had. And it's funny because my friends used to even say to me that I had a really obvious type. Like, there used to even be jokes that like all my boyfriends kind of looked the same. And they all kind of reminded me a little bit of like my dad, as screwed up as that sounds. Like, it's just that I never had that love there. And I think that's why those relationships were so triggering to me, because that's what they were really about. They were about trying to get that love that I was never given. And, you know, there's a term called trauma bonding, and it's about that we bond with people through trauma. And that was basically the relationships that I was having with men. I was creating this intense trauma because I was always going off to hospital, hurting myself, and then they were sort of coming in to save the day. And I even realized that none of these relationships started with me instantly going, wow, I'm super attracted to this man. Every single one of the relationships I had always started with me getting a clear indication from the guy that he was interested in and desired me. And that was what I wanted my whole life, was a man to care about me and desire me in the way that I missed out on as a child. And so I would only really start liking a guy once I felt that from them. It wasn't like I had this instant attraction. Whereas with women, it was just like an instant attraction. It always was. It was a strong instant attraction that I was always trying to repress. And I know the other side of it is, okay, but like you have literally written all over the internet and talked on YouTube about like jumping on guys, you know, down there, right? I'm trying not to get this video demonetized. And I get it. But here's the thing. I would have had sex with any amount of men, like any amount. I would have done anything, sexually or otherwise. There would have been no limit to what I was willing to do to get a man to love me, because I just craved that so deeply. It was never that I craved the sex. In fact, in my last relationship, I was, and I've talked about this a little bit on this channel before, I was sexually rejected a lot in the beginning, and I became absolutely obsessed with trying to have sex. And then the second that dynamic shifted and my partner actually really wanted to have sex with me, I was basically repulsed. I had no interest in sex. There's been many signs, you know, things like I've done a lot of reflection and realized that all the times I was sleeping with men, I used to always fantasize in my head about a particular female porn star who I like. I always had to think of boobs when I was in bed with a guy. Did I have real connections with men? Absolutely. Did I love my male partners? Absolutely. But not in the way that ever felt right. I always felt just like it was a bottomless pit that couldn't be filled. And I had just snatched at these little moments of what felt and what tasted like peace when I was with women. And over the past couple of months, fully coming to terms with being gay, I sort of realized it a while ago, but giving myself permission to say it has taken a lot longer. It's meant I've had to talk to a lot of people whose opinions I really respect, other people who are gay, because I never wanted to invalidate someone else's identity. I didn't want people to think, oh, she's just jumping on this bandwagon for attention. You can't say you're gay. You've had sex with too many men. But I was really blown away and just felt really just validated and comforted to hear from all my gay friends, men and women, saying that you can come out at any stage in life. And it's true that some people don't come out until after they've been married for 20 years and had 3 kids. And that's when they're ready to come out. The thing is, we are, particularly as women, our culture is very heteronormative for men and women, but particularly for women, we are really taught to aspire to be with a man. And when you add to that the fact that you had a very abusive relationship with that one man in your life who was supposed to love you, it makes perfect sense why you would become, as I was, completely boy crazy. All I wanted to do was just get in a relationship with a man who would tell me he loved me. And when my marriage broke down, the really weird thing about it, and maybe a bit of a sign at the time that I just ignored, was the fact that I wasn't grieving for the loss of the marriage. I grieved, but what I was grieving for was the loss of just the first and only stable man and male role model that I'd had in my life. And I just went on continuing to try and find that person. I tried to find it through having more sex when I left the marriage. And another memory that I'd completely repressed because of so much of my own shame is the very first thing I did when I came out of the marriage and I was going out clubbing and I just wanted to have that physical intimacy. I remember talking to a group of people in a club and there was a girl there, and the whole night I was hitting on the girl. It was the girl. There were many other good looking men there, but I was hitting on the woman. And it was only because she'd made it clear all night that she was obviously straight and not into it. And then at the very end of the night, one of the guys just showed me like an ounce of like interest, and I ended up going home with him because I was just so desperate for that male validation. And I guess this could be seen as a really shameful thing to say. Like, I'm supposed to be this empowered feminist, and I'm now admitting that I've spent most of my life just desperately chasing male validation. But I have. And I want to say that because I think a lot of women are dealing with that, because that's what we are taught to seek, and male sexual validation as well. It didn't really matter whether or not I was actually fully enjoying what was happening. It was just that I was getting that validation, and that was all that mattered to me. Anything that was going to take away the Band-Aid being ripped off on my childhood trauma, anything that was going to cover that wound back up so I didn't have to feel it for a while longer was good in my book. The main thing for me now, and the main reason that I know in my own heart that I'm gay, is because I feel an intense feeling of peace. And I've got some very close and amazing, wonderful female friends who have all actually just totally spontaneously of their own volition commented on how peaceful I have been, especially in the past month, that they have noticed a change in me. I don't feel that inner torment. I don't feel that I'm trying to fill a void that can't be filled from not getting to have a proper parent-child relationship with my father. I just feel that I can finally be who I am, and it is incredibly freeing. Do I still think men are good? Like, some men are good looking? Sure. Like, of course. I even was testing myself on this when I was going around. I'm like, are you really gay? Are you really gay? Like, do you want to like have sex with these men? And I'm walking around looking at men. I'm going, okay, he's a good looking guy. He's a good looking guy. But do I want to have sex with these men? Especially now knowing what I have allowed myself to fully come to terms with in my own heart. No, I don't. I don't ever want to have sex with a man again. And that is something I know in my heart. I feel like a switch has been flicked on, and I'm just finally seeing everything in full color, like how I probably should have been seeing it all along. And look, it might have taken me 36 years, gonna put my age out there on the internet, and a lot of YouTube story time videos and columns writing about having sex with men to realize it. And it sucks that I didn't realize it sooner. And for the longest time I was dealing with shame that I was like not a proper gay person because I did that stuff, and feeling so much shame around my past. But it's made me the person I am today, and I finally feel at peace in myself. It's a really good feeling to be who you are. And I know there are people who just won't accept this. I know there are people who will say I'm mentally deluded, that I'm an attention seeker. But do you know what? I've been getting that hate since the beginning of my career. This isn't gonna, change that. But it's more important for me to be authentic, because if even one person watches this and feels that they see their story in my story and gets just that little bit of permission that it's okay to be who you are, and that actually, no matter what you have done in your past, it is okay to change course at any time in your life and carve a new path for yourself. And yes, there's going to be pain, and yes, there's going to be discomfort on that path, but from someone who has walked it, let me tell you, it tastes a whole freaking lot like peace on the other side. Thank you for letting me share this. It's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I feel free and happy. Love you guys.